let's talk about Serbia. We've been following this story for a few months now as the European Union and European leaders have been putting additional pressure on the Serbian government and Serbian President Alexander Vucic to, first of all, push sanctions against Russia. You had Olaf Scholz from Germany flying into Serbia, basically threatening them. Like, you want this EU membership? You really got to put sanctions on Russia. And they did the opposite.
Yes.
So the Serbian government, Vucic said, no, you know what we're going to do? We're going to do the opposite, which is we're going to sign gas deals with Russia so that our people are taken care of. Now, no leader is perfect, right? Nobody's perfect. But isn't it refreshing when you actually have a president who's also 7 feet tall, who's looking out for his own people, right? And again, I don't know about all of his warts and all of his problems, but I can tell you when some of our main human concerns are food supply and energy to heat our homes, and your president, it was thinking early in the summer to line up a gas deal with President Putin in order to protect his people, that's forward thinking. Whereas in the United States, we're being told, hey, this is Putin's price hike. You got to endure this.
It's patriotic for you to do that.
Other members of the EU are saying the same thing, like Borrell. I don't know if you saw this today, that EU sanctions, he called it like a diet. So this is Joseph Borrell. He's a diplomat with the EU. He said that these sanctions right now, it's basically like it's like a diet plan.
Okay, I'm going to call extreme bullshit on that. In fact, it makes me mad because that's what we were sort of told around the pandemic. Like, hey, you know, stay inside, save some money. We're saving energy. We're saving the planet, right? But in fact, when people were let out of lockdowns, carbon emissions went up. People, it turned out, don't want to be put on a diet. They want to live the life that we created for ourselves.
Yeah, not just bullshit, it's condescending.
It's extremely condescending, makes me mad.
Like, so well,
it's also...
Go ahead, Phil.
Oh, sorry, I was going to say, like the you know, I'm an analogy guy. So if I decide, like, you know what, I think Clayton needs a diet. So the way I go about that is I lock him up and I don't let him have any food.
Yeah.
I think that's illegal.
Right.
I have to look in on the legality of that, but I do believe that's illegal.
It's not allowed.
That's called concentration camps. Like, that's what, yes. I mean, that's basically what this is, right? This is, and again, there was an interesting story out of Philadelphia this week. They had the soda tax.
Mm-hmm.
You remember over the years, I was there in Philadelphia when I was a news anchor on Fox Philadelphia for Good Day Philadelphia when they enacted the sugar tax. And so they had these giant sodas, like you couldn't get them anymore. Like if you wanted to get your big gulp, sorry, you're not going to be able to get it anymore. So the soda tax on the population was a total failure. And the question is, can you tax people into different behavior, right? Mm-hmm. And the answer is no, according to this Philadelphia sugar tax, large soda movement, right? And maybe you can. I don't know. Maybe it was smoking and stuff. Maybe it's an incentive for you to not smoke because it costs $10 a pack. I don't know. But my point is that when the government is telling you, you need to put sanctions on Russia, and just think of it like a diet plan. You're going to have less food. You're going to have less heat. You'll be shivering all the time, burning calories because you're going to be huddled up like with blankets. It's just a diet. It's incredibly condescending.
You have too much anyway.
Yeah. And by the way, do you think Joseph Borrell, is going to be on a diet?
No.
No. These guys, all these fat, politicians, these fat cats, like they're going to be fine. They're going to be having big dinners and lavish. They're not going to be on a diet. Anyway, so now Serbian President Vucic is under pressure from the EU, and the update is that the EU is threatening Serbia. So the big story overnight is the EU is threatening to withdraw investments from Serbia unless Belgrade continues its commitment to the European bloc. Now, of course, this is like the carrot, right? Because like Serbia has before wanted to become a member of the European Union, but it seems like they're pulling back on that. And maybe they don't want to be aligning themselves with the European Union.
Yes, but I don't think that he can just give the middle finger to it. And in fact, he addressed this when an MP asked him if Serbia's EU aspirations were a fairy tale. He said this: I don't believe in fairy tales. I mean, he's a no nonsense kind of dude, right? He says, I believe in realistic and rational approach. He says, how can we say we don't want the EU? Who will protect us? Do you know how many of our people work for German, French, Czech, and Polish companies in our country? Do you think we haven't heard the threats about them withdrawing investments if we didn't recognize Kosovo's independence? Do we have to sacrifice all that so we can tell someone they're a fairy tale? He says we can't be driven by emotions. So he understands that he is in a rock and a hard place. He does absolutely want to do business with Russia.
So
he does also want peace with the European Union.
Right. And so what they're pushing him for is, of course, an acknowledgement of Kosovo's independence. Right. He says, we keep hearing the EU, the leader of the president whose Progressive Party holds 104 seats in the 250-member legislature faced criticism from both the pro-EU Democrats and the Eurosceptic Oath Keepers in Serbia. The leader of the Oath Keepers wondered why the ruling party keeps painting a picture of gloom and doom. Says, we keep hearing that the EU is making demands and ultimatums to Serbia, but I don't see how you've responded, she said. What exactly are we asking for that's not rightly ours? What are the unrealistic and maximalist demands that you keep talking about? So that's what the EU wants? Hey, just recognize Kosovo, and we'll fast track you into EU membership.
They also want sanctions on Russia.
Right. So do all of these things. Sanctions on Russia, that means you've got to say no to their gas. So, and by the way, he specifically said that he sees Europe going into a cold winter. He says that last week, Vucic said he predicted that Europe would face a polar winter next year, largely due to the sanctions that the EU has levied on Russia, which impact the energy sector. He said, last week, President Vucic said that Europe would face a polar winter, largely due to the sanctions that the EU has levied on Russia, which impact the energy sector. While Serbia is not part of the EU, of course, the country's energy supply routes run right through Serbia.
And he's saying, look, Serbia is going to be collateral damage no matter how neutral we play it, right? Because of, like every surrounding nation, reliance on foreign imports, foreign imports.
So then what is he going to do, right? I mean, that's the real question here. Like he recognizes the investment, the importance of all. I mean, when we were in Belgrade recently, there was, all sorts of international business men and women there who were meeting there, flying there on a regular basis to do business and invest. And I was overhearing a group of investors talk at breakfast about plans in Belgrade, plans in Serbia for investment. And he was from the Netherlands, and he was there doing investments. Right? So there is absolutely a need for this relationship.
Diplomacy.
Yes, but at what cost to your own people? I would love to hear from our Serbian friends who watch our show. Where do you come down on this? Let us know. We've been trying to cover this story as fairly and openly as we can, and giving you all sides of this really important story. Because I think all of these countries that don't get enough awareness, certainly in that region, how important they are to the geopolitical landscape. Right?
Yeah.
You have Olaf Scholz flying to Serbia to meet with the Serbian president specifically to push for sanctions against Russia, while at the same time trying to get EU membership. Serbia, looking out for its own people, also knows that it needs the support of the Russians for a number of reasons. So there's all sorts of really interesting chess pieces being played here.
Yeah.